Welcome to episode 443 of Salcedo Paranormal, and tonight I will be starting a review of the books of Charles Fort. For all episodes of the show and links to social media and other ways to contact me, you can visit the podcast page, and that is salcidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions, or stories of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or you listen on the podcast or YouTube feeds, or on the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear 2 replays of the show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Trouble Minds Radio comes on. I also like to thank the host of Trouble Minds Radio, Michael Strange, as well as Liam Martin, host of the Exile Minds podcast, for producing my shows and putting them up on the station. If you'd like to support the show, there are some different ways to do that. You can always rate and review the show on your podcast platform of choice, and also share the show with others. If you are into paranormal fiction or nonfiction books, you can find some of those I've written over on Amazon. Also, I have a Patreon page, and if you want to sign up and support the show there, you will get one extra episode of the show every month. Maybe more than that in the future, we will see, and go from there. And those extra episodes will be available for all tiers on that page, no matter which one you choose. So, and if you'd like to make a one-time donation, you can do that through PayPal or Venmo. And all support is always appreciated, but never expected. But there are expenses to doing the show, such as equipment and research materials, and travel expenses, as I'm going to the Mid-Michigan Paracon this year, over in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and that's at the Soaring Eagle Casino and Resort. I forgot to mention in the last episode, I always include the link to the event in each episode description, along with all those other links, in case you think you might want to go. And that is November 4th and 5th, and that's weekend, Saturday and Sunday. So I'll be going to that and reporting back to you all on how that went and my experience with all that. And then if I'm able to do any recordings with others, I will be doing that and sharing those as well. So looking forward to that coming up later on this year. I think that takes care of everything. So I've heard some other shows over the years sort of do deep dives into the books of Charles Fort. And if anyone has heard the term Fortean, that comes from him, or at least it's about him. So let's get into this here. I'll be reviewing, again, basically reviewing summaries of his work as it relates to the paranormal and just anomalous events in general. And this is going back almost 100 years. So, but it's amazing how when you look at events from in some cases over 100 years ago, there are similar reports of things that happen in these days in some cases as well. So, and that's why I wanted to review this, because I've heard reviews of it before, and really is amazing all the different things that seem like there's similar events happening today. So, Charles Fort, just a little bit about him. Let's see here. He was born in 1874 and passed on in 1932. And he was an American writer and researcher who specialized in anomalous phenomena. And again, that's just almost another way to describe some aspects of paranormal or supernatural happenings. So, and the books that I'll be reviewing here in this series of shows are his non-fiction works, but he's also written some fiction as well. So there are 4 of these books that I'll be reviewing over the course of, I don't know how many episodes yet. That's just going to be something that we'll find out as we go. And so these 4 books that I'll be talking about here are Book of the Damned. Let me see here. I'm not in the right paragraph. So let me get to it. But that's the first one we'll be starting with, really, is that one. So Book of the Damned, like I said. And then the next one is, what is it? New Lands. So Book of the Damned came out originally in 1919. New Lands came out in 1923. The next one is just called Lo, L-O, exclamation mark. Came out in 1931, and then Wild Talents came out in 1932. And so that's basically, I think, all we really need to get into here as far as that goes. If you check out the book, all 4 of those books are available together on Amazon as an ebook, as a Kindle book. I forget now what I paid, but it wasn't a lot, especially considering it's 4 books together. So, but anyway, so getting back to this, the review here, I'm going to be basically summarizing different each section of each of these books in order, obviously, and we'll go from there. And this will just keep in mind, this is written back in the beginning of the 20th century, and it will be, I'm pretty sure it will be also talking about events that happened near the end of the 19th century as well. So let's get to this the summary here. So this first section, first chapter of this Book of the Damned, in this section, Fort criticizes science for arbitrarily excluding certain phenomena and data that do not fit accepted theories and paradigms. And he argues that nothing can ever be definitively proven or defined, since all things blend continuously into other things. And I don't know if I go that far, and that's mainly his idea, but I do think that I agree that maybe knowing anything for absolute 100% sure, I don't know that we can ever do that. In terms of looking at different events and how things work in the universe and all that, I sort of agree there, because we can know what we can know based on what we observe. I think this is just my thoughts as of right now. But then if things change, or we sort of look back at those same things later on with other methods and other technologies, then maybe we'll find things that change what we thought we knew before. And I think there's plenty of examples of that, just going based on things from the past up to now. So says science excludes data that doesn't match its existing theories and assumptions, damning, and that's where the Book of the Damned idea comes from, damning these anomalies as illusions or mistakes. And you see that and just even today, in a lot of cases, people who there are a lot of people who think that anything paranormal is misidentification in a lot of cases, and or hoaxes in others. And so that's part of why it is ridiculed, has been ridiculed as much as it has been over time. And that's part of what I sort of try to fight against. Not really that I fight, but try to go against with this show, is that I do think there are things out there that happen to people that are not just ordinary things, as according to current thoughts on how things are supposed to work. Fort argues that these excluded facts and unexplained phenomena should not be dismissed so easily or so readily. He goes on basically to describe that all divisions and demarcations between things are ultimately false and arbitrary. Again, he's going back to this idea of this that I mentioned in the beginning there. Everything in existence merges continuously into other things. There are no absolute separations or positive differences. And again, this is a lot of this here is more just Fort's conclusions and ideas and thoughts. I'll let you know sort of when I'm getting to my own things here as we go. And thank you all for listening as we go through this, because sort of like the mythology show in the series I just started before this. This is my first time really getting into a series of shows on a topic or on material. So I am hoping that this all comes across okay and you all still enjoy it. Fort. So according to Fort, truth and knowledge can never be final or complete. And this is a summary, so it's not exact writing. But this is a summary of Fort's work and using and in part AI to help make these summaries here. Truth and knowledge can never be final or complete. Every seeming answer or explanation will merge into further questions and uncertainties. And again, I think that's I kind of agree with that right there. Going back to the summary here, our existence is an intermediate state between full realness and complete unrealness. And this is one thing Charles Fort does in some cases, is he sort of makes words or puts words together in different ways that are you may not be used to, and but I sort of like it in a way as well. Science aims to move us closer to positiveness and realness, but its exclusions and definitions can never capture the whole continuous truth. So again, I like that in a way, because I do think everything is just it's can't easily be explained. Fort advocates replacing firm belief with temporary acceptance as a more flexible, progressive approach. Rather than clinging to dogmas, I should say, we should see all knowledge as a movement toward greater understanding. And again, so many of these things here that he gets into, I like, because I've over the last few years I've gotten to the point where the only thing I know for sure is that I really don't know a lot. There are a lot of things that seem to be the way they are. Again, especially with the paranormal, there's a lot of patterns that seem to be patterns that seem to fit. But then there's also always differences too. So it's really hard to lock anything down, I think. And I can understand why some people wouldn't like that as well. So to each their own. So the tone of this work is philosophical and poetic, but critiques the limitations of rigid exclusionary science. Fort argues for being more open to anomalous data and recognizing the continuity between all phenomena. So that's sort of the first chapter of that first book, that Book of the Damned. Let me look at this next part here. I think I can at least start on it, and we'll just we'll see how far we get in it. But yeah, so I'm really excited to do this, because his Fort's work I've heard, like I said before, in different shows, and there are a lot of odd things he gets into, that reports of odd things that he gets into, and I really am excited to get to that. This is sort of just the beginning of everything of his work here, and so it's just laying down some general ideas, I think, and sort of getting ready for what is to come. in the rest of this whole thing here. And so yeah, getting back to the material. Let's see here. Okay. So next chapter here says that based on the book again, in 1883 there were unusually colorful sunsets and blue moons that could not be easily explained by science at the time. And mentions the Krakatoa volcanic eruption of August 1883 was initially blamed as the cause, but the atmospheric effects lasted for years, with a gap of several years in between. Fort questions the plausibility of volcanic dust remaining suspended in the air for so long. It's just interesting. Fort also argues against the tendency of science to favor isolationist theories or that deny outside influences on the Earth. So basically, other forces or other things out in, I guess he means space, that we just at the time hadn't discovered yet. Now, this is, of course, keep in mind, back in, again, like I said, almost over 100 years ago now. But there are still anomalous things that happen. Look at all the lights, orbs that are seen out everywhere. In houses, out in forests, out near the tops of trees and telephone poles, and out in space. So I can't argue with him there either. Fort provides examples of scientists resisting evidence for meteorites as coming from outside the Earth. So this idea, and this is something I've heard about before too, where apparently at the time a lot of scientists thought that nothing really ever fell from outer space. It was all things that were somehow launched into the air by other natural events that then fell back down again. So Fort accuses science of being overly positivist. Again, this is, I think, one of his words, and resistance to anomalies that don't fit established theories. Comparing this to hypnotic suggestion. He uses examples like large hailstones and snowflakes to argue that science shrugs off extreme anomalies too readily. So, Fort believes science should be more open to evidence of things like black rains, colored snow, falls of organic matter like wool, butter, or meat. Yes, I read that, and that is exactly what has reports of in this book. Rather than dismissing them outright when they don't fit existing models. He sees progress as requiring a more radical openness. And so he critiques, basically, this overall he critiques science's tendency toward isolated theories and resistance to anomalous evidence, using examples like Krakatoa and meteorites to argue for being more open to outside influences and extreme anomalies. So yeah, let me see here. I think I might be able to get to this last section here that I have put aside for today. So this next section, this is where we get into some of the anomalies here. And this next section is talking about unusual rains, and more particularly red and then black rains that has fallen in different parts of the world in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Charles Fort collects and presents these reports in support of his view that mainstream science ignores or tries to explain away data that, let's see here, I lost my spot, that does not fit accepted theories. So he describes reports of black rain like a deluge of ink in places like Ireland, France, and South Africa. Some had a foul odor to them or left oily residues. And then also in cases of red rain, there have been that has fallen repeatedly in places like Italy, Holland, Russia, and China, I believe. Some reddish rains were attributed to sand from the Sahara desert, but the author therefore argues that this can't explain all cases. So I'm gonna assume I'm gonna be skipping over a lot of this here because he does continue to mention over and over again. Fort is critical of mainstream scientists' tendency to dismiss these events as normal phenomena or somehow connect them to known geological events like volcanic eruptions. So let's see. Yeah, I have to sort of filter that out. So sorry for the being repetitive there. So let's see here. So yeah, this is, and I definitely recommend people get these books. And again, these are things that have scientists tried to explain away, but they were just really odd. And I've heard of different rains, even like red rains, even up into, I believe, the 80s or 90s in different parts of the world. So yeah, this is, I think this is going to be a fun book, series of books to get into here. And this is the basically the end of this third section here, where again, Fort aims to show gaps or flaws in conventional scientific thinking by using these examples and of this evidence that does not conform to accepted views. So if you do a search, you may I was thinking about this, and I don't think I'm going to go through every single event. I really want to do more of a overall summary of this, because I've heard some shows that summarize or that go over a lot of the events, and a lot of them seem similar. So I just wanted to give a really basic overview of the different things that are covered in these books. And falling objects is a lot of this, but not all of it. And I think the other things come in later parts of this whole collection of works here. But so yeah, I hope you all enjoy this here, and I'm let me know if whenever you can, if you want me to keep going with this in the future. And I may still go anyway. I may still do it anyway. But it would be great to know what you all think of this, and see where we go from here. This will probably be this is the first episode of this series, and I'll probably be doing at least one episode, maybe two episodes of this and the mythology and the paranormal. One episode a week at least of each of those shows, and maybe more as I get into these things. And so I've had a lot of fun with the book reviews, the regular fictional book reviews, but there's a lot of material out there that I think is nonfiction that I think can be reviewed as well, and connections can be made to the paranormal and to events that happen even today to people all around the world. So I've even heard on different podcasts people talk about respond to reviews of these books saying I experienced that. So thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. If I can talk. Take care, everyone.